First race then of Sunday. Race 3 of round 4 for the AC40 Pro class. They're heading out onto their sighting lap, just getting themselves, warmed up, ready to go. Let's run you through as to how things are going to rack up on the grid lineup. Mason FEDRICK from championship leader Rex Austin and Caelan RATCLIFFE. That's row 1. Behind that, Max Johnson, who has boasted a couple of decent results, few top 5s and a podium at the first round at Lid. He's going to be looking to develop upon that as well. Preston BAKER, that's the top 5 ahead of RD4 for row 2. Beyond that, we've got Jenson ANSELL, Henrie BRODIE and Maxwell KEATES. That's row 3. Tommy Keates completes the top 10 ahead of Dani Longhurst and Oliver Wilson, the top 12. And our 12-rider field, 4 rows and some decent action. 9 laps of racing, and they're going to be looking to end off round 4 with a bang.
They should be indeed. It looked to be super close in race number 1. Race number 2 a little bit less close, but from what we've been told, some great action. Let's see what they do in race number 3 of round 4. Again, they've still got 3 more races after this one this weekend, so plenty of action, especially for young riders. Might be a bit knackering as well, so fatigue potentially something we have to think about here, because they're doing a lot of running this weekend, far more than you normally do on a regular weekend. 6 races as standard. Some of these guys will be up in the elite class as well, so they'll be doing up to 12 races over the weekend. That's going to take the energy out of you. It's going to be tough.
It is going to be indeed. Of course, your arms, your core, your shoulders, everything as you're trying to lean the bike, and just sort of even the throttle and brakes, it's going to take a toll on your wrists and your fingers and everything. And to do that consistently over the duration of a weekend, it is going to begin to take a toll, especially if you're doing more than one class as well, like you say. So look out for that. Maybe riders feeling a little bit down in the dumps, or it depends how the racing is going. Maybe they're up on the morale, riding that confidence. Maybe they just need a couple of jelly tots to get those sugar levels up, and they're ready to go again. Obviously, young riders full of energy, unlike me and you, Ross. It's not great sometimes, but the racing is about to begin. Of course, they'll look to the lights, the front row, the big 3 in the championship, the ones to look out for. 9 laps of racing, the first covered on FAB-Racing. Let's go here at Rowrah. Great start from pole position, but look for Caelan RATCLIFFE going down to the outside of turns 1 and 2. Good fight for P4 as well. Of course, as they jostle Preston BAKER versus Max Johnson, but out of the first chicane. And look at that start from our pole sitter, Mason FEDRICK, able to secure an early lead.
Perfect launch there from the number 5 to inherit the lead, Caelan RATCLIFFE. Monstrous round the outside into the opening chicane. Watch for Max Johnson trying to have a look there into Erdale's hairpin, the top point of the track, which also, when it rains, is somehow the most wet part of the circuit. Leaders side by side. That is the 96 of Caelan RATCLIFFE through to the lead. What can the 5 do? Mason FEDRICK, does he try to fight back as we head into the sweepers down at the final few corners? Not at the moment, but maybe trying to have a look into Sunny Bend there as they head through the right-hander. Where do they come out? Of the left and onto the main straight. More action further back as well. Some of the riders keeping going, keeping pushing. RATCLIFFE and FEDRICK still side by side. It will be Caelan RATCLIFFE who leads the opening lap here after a great getaway from 3rd on the grid. But once again, Zach, top 3 neck and neck, and just behind them as well, a whole host of riders. Goodness me, big problems for the 96 of Caelan RATCLIFFE. I think he hit the brakes and it just didn't stop. A big wobble, somehow managed to stay on, but from the lead, falling back in the pack. Great save to stay on 2 wheels. But that's not what Caelan RATCLIFFE would have wanted at the start of this race.
Into the lead as well. Rex Austin trying to attack Mason FEDRICK, going into St John's, then into... this is the back end of the circuit. This is going all the way around. Then they're going to run their way into the left towards St John's. This downhill braking zone into the right-hander, then the sweeping left in towards Sunny Bend. But Mason FEDRICK dealing this race thus far with such maturity. Rex Austin, of course, though, is giving him a little bit of pressure. Be interesting to see what Caelan RATCLIFFE can do in terms of a recovery, because these races aren't long. Those laps go by very quickly.
They do indeed. Already only 7 laps left to run. FEDRICK from Austin, your top 3. FEDRICK, fastest lap last time of 56.423. Austin at 56.436. They are running on the ragged edge here at Rowrah and giving each other all that they have. Currently, though, FEDRICK with the advantage, holding on to that very narrow lead. Further back, that's Jenson ANSELL and Max Johnson currently fighting over the Romanian podium place as the front 2 have started to pull away a little bit. Look at the chattering there from Mason FEDRICK, the front of the bike, protesting, complaining as he works his way around the right-hander. Now this section of the track, absolutely awesome, diving down the hill into the right, now the left at Sunny Bend, and you can run out a lot wider there on the bigger bikes, not so much on the Minimotos. Final corner through Paddock Bend, FEDRICK will lead another lap. And if you see there, the top 4 have started to split away. The top 2 have started to split away. Caelan RATCLIFFE last lap at 56.390. He's starting to close the gap into Max Johnson in P4.
Yeah, he is doing a brilliant job. 6 laps to go at the line. Quick update as to how things are racking up in terms of the order. Mason FEDRICK leads Rex Austin. We know that much in what is a very hotly contested battle for the lead. Then behind that comes Jenson ANSELL and Max Johnson searching for podium glory. Caelan RATCLIFFE competes the top 5 and, of course, is closing in rapidly. 1.5 seconds onto that battle between the 22 of Ansell and the 141 of Johnson. Then, of course, behind that, you've got Brodie from RICHH, Tommy Keates, Dani LONGHURST, Maxwell KEATES completes the top 10 ahead of Oliver Wilson. Our grid thus far. Still, as I say, got 6 or 5.5 laps left to go. Look to the inside there. Goodness me, Max Johnson, he wants that podium.
Well, that was certainly a look and then some, wasn't it, from Max Johnson? Unfortunately, the gap was not quite there, but you can tell he's really hungry for this one, isn't he? Looking left, looking right, looking up and looking down, but just unable to find the gap on Jenson ANSELL as it stands. Back to our front 2. FEDRICK still leads Austin as it stands. The gap at the line, 1.5 tenths of a second. Couldn't fit a cigarette paper between them. Last lap, that was the fastest lap of the race from Rex Austin at 56.040. The lap's getting quicker and quicker and quicker as the tyres heat up, the brakes heat up, the riders start to settle into a rhythm, and those lap times are going to keep on dropping as the race continues. But FEDRICK holding on from Austin as it stands. Can Austin maybe launch a little look potentially into Sunny Ben? No, I think he's a little bit too far back, and he is indeed, but he's still putting the pressure on, just trying to hound the rear of FEDRICK, trying to maybe get into his head. And actually, talking of hounding the rear, look at Caelan RATCLIFFE. He is all over the back of Max Johnson now. That issue he had earlier, he's trying to work his way back onto the podium. With 4 laps to go, he might well get there.
I think so. He's still got just under half the race left to run. A podium at the very least. Maybe not the win. That seems a little bit too out of reach for him, but another fast lap on that previous time by for Rex Austin by about 2 tenths of a second, dipping in to the 55s, but it's basically matched by Mason FEDRICK. That is the level that these two are riding towards. Caelan RATCLIFFE, though, may be struggling with a bit of confidence after that mistake or issue or whatever it was, but relative to Max Johnson and, of course, Jenson ANSELL, is not slowing him down at all. He is closing in on that podium, and for a championship at this stage of the season, of course, these guys are ticking their way into the second half. You need to be maximising every single race. There's a look there from Max Johnson. That's going to allow RATCLIFFE to close in. 3 laps to go at the line.
It's super close in this battle for third. Crunch time in the season now. We're entering the halfway point of round 4. Round 5 is over the halfway point. This, of course, being race 3 of round 4 at this doubleheader weekend. Max Johnson looking really racy. Looks like he wants it. FEDRICK and Austin getting into some traffic there. Believe that was Oliver Wilson. They have just lapped. That could potentially throw things all slow off the corner. There was Max Johnson and Caelan RATCLIFFE. Well, that's an easy move. Through even before the braking zone. Up into P4 goes Caelan RATCLIFFE on this recovery ride. Here comes Rex Austin to the inside. Lovely move from the 991. How does FEDRICK respond? He can't immediately. And with 2.5 laps left to run, Rex Austin to the lead of the race.
Beautifully done. Trying to extend on his 3 race wins he's had thus far this season, and is now obviously in prime position to do so. 2 laps to go at the line. Does FEDRICK have the pace to respond? He is tucked in behind. Of course, as a rider, you can sort of see that win ahead of you. You try and use that to ride the wave of motivation, to sort of just try and find those extra couple of tenths of a second, that commitment. And I think he's immediately going to try and respond to the inside of the hairpin. Oh my goodness me, bit of a stoppy as he tries to get it on the brakes. Not quite good enough there. A close call, but a good look nonetheless.
Stoppy on a Minimoto. Pinch me, I'm dreaming. Awesome stuff there from Mason FEDRICK to try and give it a go at least. Unfortunately, it came to naught. And now that gap is looking a lot bigger, but still just over 1.5 laps left to run. Caelan RATCLIFFE has made his way back onto the podium. The number 96, a great recovery ride from him after that issue earlier. Whether a problem with the bike or a mistake, we're not entirely sure, but it did drop him down the order. But he has limited the damage, which is exactly what you need at this stage of the championship when you're fighting your way through. There we see Max Johnson once again having a look on Jenson ANSELL, trying to find a way through. Don't think this battle for third is done quite yet. As we head onto the final lap of the race, maybe Jenson ANSELL can upset Caelan RATCLIFFE and try and squeeze his way into the podium places.
Maybe so. Who knows what's to come? 1 lap left to go, and of course, as a rider, you know time is of the essence, but a poor run through the chicane. Max Johnson looks to the inside of the hairpin. There's our lead too. Rex Austin from Mason FEDRICK. Austin able to secure that race lead for now, but Mason FEDRICK is trying everything he can, but every corner they tick past is one less opportunity to win.
Maybe that move came at the wrong time because it cost him a lot when it didn't come into fruition. RATCLIFFE has managed to extend the gap a little bit. FEDRICK still putting the pressure on. It may have to be last chance miracles for the number 5. Does he see a gap heading into Sunny Bend? No, he doesn't. Still neck and neck. Poor drive off the corner from Mason FEDRICK means Rex Austin is home and dry. Race number 3 of round 4 goes the way of the 991 of Rex Austin, who waited patiently and executed his move with precision and perfection. A lovely ride from him. Mason FEDRICK, still, he will be disappointed, but it was hard fought and a well-earned second place, as well as Caelan RATCLIFFE after that issue earlier does a great job to make it back onto the podium places, only by 0.2 of a second though. It was very tight between himself and Ansell with Max Johnson right behind as well. Great battles in that race. These guys have still got 3 more races this weekend as well. But that's a great way to start Sunday's action.
It really is. Rex Austin, Mason FEDRICK take a bow. Caelan RATCLIFFE as well. In fairness, he made a mistake, but he picked himself back up and he recovered from it. Still a podium. It's points lost, but it's okay. He got that win, obviously yesterday in race 2. He's going to be able to slowly recover that damage. And of course, as you say, they've still got the entirety of round 5 for the pros to go. And obviously the rest of the season, Clay Pigeon and Ella Park to round off the season in a few weeks' time. There's time for him to recover. One race is not going to be telling of that, and he did a fantastic job in limiting that damage. Run through, of course, of the results. Rex Austin from Mason FEDRICK, Caelan RATCLIFFE, the top 3 in the championship, the top 3 in this race. Ansell from Johnson, that's the top 5. Henrie BRODIE, Arthur RICHH, Tommy Keates, that's the top 8. Dani LONGHURST from Maxwell KEATES, that's the top 10. Oliver Wilson, an unfortunate DNF for Preston BAKER, classified as 12, but unfortunately didn't able to turn in too many laps.
Well, this is a bit of a weird one because this is the first round 5 race that we've got this weekend in the middle of some round 4 races. It's race 1 of round 5 for the AC40 Pros as we head into Sunday afternoon's racing. The riders all getting ready, getting prepared, maybe starting to lose a little bit of patience. They look ready and roaring to go up on the dummy grid before they head down to the grid proper. And well, what a race 1 we saw earlier on. There was action, there was drama, and as the riders make their way out onto the circuit after our lunch break, it's sure to be even more intense in this second race of the day, the first round 5 race we've got this weekend. Again, we've got 2 round 5 races for you here. We've got this AC40 Pro race, then we've got the Rookies Cup race afterwards. Then we're back to some round 4 races. We've got all the rest of our race 3s, and then it's back to round 5 for the remainder of today and Monday's action. And of course, as always, this weekend, 3 abreast, and as well, there was only 1 qualifying session this weekend. So the starting grids for all of the round 5 races exactly the same as all of the round 4s. You can hear there the wind starting to pick up there. There's maybe a few little issues of some of our riders just making sure everything's working. Of course, here at Rowrah, nestled in the heart of an old quarry up the northernmost point of the Lake Districts, the weather can be a bit unpredictable, and although it's looking to be sunny all weekend, well, it has been sunny all weekend long, and it's looking to be sunny tomorrow on Monday as well, the wind can certainly pick up, and that's what we're hearing here. The riders are making their way on their sighting lap.
They very much are indeed. Before then, of course, a 9-lap race. Quick reminder of the grid. Thankfully, Mason FEDRICK was able to start from pole position. It was a close call to get that bike started, but thankfully he is all good. He lines up alongside Rex Austin and Caelan RATCLIFFE, his 2 main championship rivals on row 1. Max Johnson, Preston BAKER, both of whom are inside the top 5 in the championship, and the top 5 on the grid today as well. Arthur RICHH competes row 2 ahead of Jenson ANSELL, Henrie BRODIE and Maxwell KEATES. That's row 3. Tommy Keates completes the top 10. Dani LONGHURST and Oliver Wilson. A nice round 12 rider field. 4 rows, 9 laps. Race 1 of round 5 about to get itself underway. What can we expect from these guys? Because it was a cracking race earlier on.
Cracking doesn't even start. It was absolutely brilliant action, and we can expect more of the same, I think, as we get going in race number 1 of round 5. Rex Austin, of course, took the victory from Mason FEDRICK and Caelan RATCLIFFE in 3rd after a titanic tussle between the lot of them. There was fights all throughout the field. and it should be interesting to see what this one is going to do. Again, the temperature has picked up a little bit as the sun reaches its uppermost point, so track temperature probably a little bit warmer than it was earlier. Of course, the wind has picked up, but crucially, the track has been rubbered in across the weekend. There was rain throughout the week, so the previous rubber was all washed away when we started here this weekend, and on Friday the track was very, very green, and slowly over the course of the weekend it's become more and more rubbered in. It gets faster, the rubber on the tyre has to do a little bit less work as a result, and again we're expecting to see more and more lap times drop. We've seen a few lap records in other classes today. Maybe we'll be seeing a lap record in this one as well, but it's time for our opening round 5 race of the weekend at this double round event here at Rowrah. It is all eyes up to the red lights. FEDRICK on pole alongside Austin and Ratcliffe. It's lights out and we are underway. Good launch there by Rex Austin. He's going to take the lead down into turn 1. Maybe Caelan RATCLIFFE gets through and FEDRICK as well, and indeed he does. What a launch there from the inside, or the outside should I say, on the front row. FEDRICK did not get away badly. The other two were just far, far stronger in that regard, and Rex Austin and Caelan RATCLIFFE already trying to pull away. We saw FEDRICK having those issues on the grid. He was slow coming out of McRae's hairpin. Maybe, just maybe, he's suffering more from that as Austin and RATCLIFFE continue to battle. Now it's RATCLIFFE into the lead, roaring down the hill and into Stewart's Bend. As they make their way round all single file, someone got away a little bit slowly there at the back of the grid, it would seem, but all clean so far as they now make their way through the opening sweepers. Looks like Mason FEDRICK might have lost another position, and indeed he did for a moment. I think Preston Baker got through, then made a mistake coming into Sunny Bend and has dropped back down the order. Lap 1 though belongs to the 96 of Caelan RATCLIFFE, Rex Austin P2, and crucially Mason FEDRICK in P3.
Yeah, terrible start, it must be said, for that number 5 machine. Unfortunate for Mason FEDRICK, but maybe going back to those issues that he was having on the grid, maybe it was just a poor start. He's got to hold his hands up and say fair enough. The top 2 though, RATCLIFFE versus Austin. Don't forget, in race 3 of round 4 earlier on that we saw, Caelan RATCLIFFE had that issue. He made that mistake, he recovered to P3. Now he wants redemption, he wants to fight back, he wants to win. Rex Austin, does he have the pace to keep up? Because RATCLIFFE was flying earlier on.
He was indeed. And maybe RATCLIFFE looking to continue that form. Whatever issues Mason FEDRICK had on the opening lap, looks like he's managed to get over them. He's started to get his head down, starting to push forward, and just getting out a little bit in front of Jenson ANSELL in P4. Just want to say a quick piece about Jenson ANSELL. Didn't quite realise it had been so long, but this is his first round back at FAB after having a big injury at the back end of last year. So it's great to see Jenson out there and doing so well as well at his first weekend back. Apparently he was super excited to be back, super excited to get back on the bike and get racing. And now he's doing a great job as there we see more moves. That looks like that was Preston Baker or Max Johnson on Preston Baker, should I say, and indeed it was. Through the 141 goes on the number 93. That is for P5, and slid on through. 7 laps left to go in this one as they negotiate their way through the tricky hairpin sections down at the middle of the track. Erdale's probably the hardest corner at the track, especially for these Minimotos, just because of how slow it is. You've got to kill all the revs off coming in, roll all the way off the throttle, and then get back on it as soon as you possibly can, just to try and get some speed and get some momentum up. Meanwhile, up the front, Rex Austin really starting to pressure Caelan RATCLIFFE as they come to paddock bend. He has a little bit of a look to the inside. The 991 was quicker on the previous tour. This lap, he is ever so slightly faster. Mason FEDRICK faster still. We could be having, once again, a 3-way fight for the lead.
I think so, indeed. They're still away off the lap record, of course, set by Mason Foster in 2018. They're still a good 2 seconds off that in the pros, but obviously as the track rubbers in, as the race develops, they are going to get quicker and quicker. Nice to see FEDRICK picking himself back up and fighting back towards the front. Less than a second now. There is the gap, as you can see. RATCLIFFE, Austin, FEDRICK 1, 2 and 3. Jenson ANSELL, it must be said, like you say, is doing a fantastic job running nicely inside the top 5. We saw him do that earlier on as well, and not a bad way to recover at all. A couple of recovery stories so far this weekend, to be fair, and it's nice to see all the riders. It's an inspiration to other riders out there to get back on your feet, get back onto the bike and get back racing again, doing exactly what you love. As a rider off,
who might be Preston Baker, I think. Can't quite tell because of the hedge or the tree that's in the way, but gets going once again. We're going to confirm who that was in a moment. Back to the lead action though. Caelan RATCLIFFE leading from Austin. Look at FEDRICK really closing in now. He was quicker than the two in front by 0.4 of a second on the previous tour, and is really starting to push very hard. Looks like it was Arthur Rich who went off there earlier on from P8. That's a shame for Arthur, but great to see that he was able to get back on the bike and rejoin the race. Again, the rule that was implemented at Three Sisters, where if you come off, you're not allowed to remount. That does not apply here. If you come off and the bike's still able to go and you're still able to go, it is free reign. Hop back on two wheels and get pushing once again as we come down the bottom end of the circuit. Through Stewart we go. Look at FEDRICK. He is really pushing hard now. Whatever issues were happening on the grid on the opening few laps have been overcome and dealt with, because FEDRICK is now right on the exhaust of Rex Austin and really looking like he wants to try and challenge for this win. But it's a three-way fight. The three titans of this class this year, all neck and neck at the front, covered by just 0.3 of a second at the line. 4 laps left to run. Yeah,
this is going to be absolutely amazing all the way to the end. The 96 from the 991 from the 5. Mason FEDRICK putting some pressure onto Rex Austin, looking to go around the outside of the first hairpin. That's not really an overtaken opportunity unless you're absolutely insane. The 911 of Rex Austin looking to the inside of Erzel as well. Not really much that you can do there because you're all slowing down pretty much to a stop. It's all about the exit, keeping that minimum speed up and making sure you can get that power down as soon as possible. Not enough for Rex Austin. Caelan RATCLIFFE keeps the lead for now.
Yeah, someone down. I saw a yellow flag. Someone was down there, possibly Preston BAKER on the 93, who's had an off. Coming out of Stewart. Hopefully all is okay. But yeah, the number 93, Preston BAKER, dropping well down the order. That's a massive shame for him. Looks like he's down and out of this race. The lead 3 negotiating traffic with relative ease, and they make it 3 laps left to run. Mason FEDRICK tries to get a good run out of Paddock Bend. Unfortunately, nothing able to come to fruition. Or a little bit tentative there from the 991 of Rex Austin. Doesn't open any doors, but it maybe gives him an opportunity for the lead out of nowhere. He had a big look down into turn number 1, or not turn number 1, hairpin number 1, should I say, down at McRae's. Unfortunately, nothing came out of it though. The 3 of them still locked in this battle. And is that Preston BAKER? Yes, it is. He went off earlier. A real shame for the number 93. Race 1 of round 5 done, and out he goes. The number 93's had a good season so far. It's a shame. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone having an accident retiring, but it's good to see that he's up on his feet and okay. That is the main thing. As they come down now, it'll be 2 laps left to go in just a short moment's time. And these front 3, it's a proper stalemate between them, Zach. Nobody really trying to make a move, because they know if they try and launch something and make a mistake, it's going to cost them.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a very short fuse though, and all it takes is a spark and it will ignite, and hopefully that's exactly what's going to happen with 2 laps left to go. Rex Austin under pressure. He's been under pressure pretty much every lap so far this race, because Mason FEDRICK just gets that run through the chicane and has a look into the hairpin. It's not enough to launch a move up the inside or even on the outside, but it's enough to get into the head of Rex Austin and say, you know, hang on, I'm here, I'm ready to fight. Caelan RATCLIFFE though, again, they're all the same pace. It's just that they're getting that pace in different places. Caelan RATCLIFFE is quick in all the right places though. He's quick on exits, he's quick on entries, and that's all he needs to do to avoid being overtaken.
But there's the pressure as well. Can he handle the pressure with 2 very, very quick riders behind him as well? It's going to be 1 lap left to go. At the line this time by as they come round Paddock Bend. Rex Austin once again looks to the inside. Maybe leaves the door open for Mason FEDRICK as he gets the drive out of Paddock Bend. To the inside goes the number 5. Does not come into fruition on that occasion. FEDRICK will have to go once again. Another great drive out of the chicane for Mason FEDRICK, but he's going to have to go the long way around. Maybe try and get the cut back out of McRae's, but still nothing. This time maybe Rex Austin can have a look. No, too far back on this occasion. FEDRICK still pushing like it's the last lap. Almost like it is the last lap, Zach, as they come barreling back down the hill. Caelan RATCLIFFE still holding on to the lead. It could be anyone's guess who's going to be on the top step.
Yeah, exactly that. Mason FEDRICK is pushing very, very hard. We've seen all season long that he is not scared to get his elbows out in towards St John's for the final time. Of course, a prime overtaking opportunity if you're brave. And look there, maybe Rex Austin to the inside of Sunny Bend, but that could leave him susceptible to an attack from FEDRICK, but his momentum gets swamped. 1 more corner left to run for Caelan RATCLIFFE. Of course, it was a mistake that cost him a chance for victory earlier on, but he comes back firing on all cylinders, side by side across the line as well, as Mason FEDRICK doesn't tip Rex Austin to second place, but Caelan RATCLIFFE take a bow, dealt with that race so brilliantly. Rex Austin from Mason FEDRICK, those 3 are going places.
They are, certainly indeed. What a great race from that front 3. Not necessarily overtaken action, but just pure tension, waiting to see if someone can make the move. 3 riders at the absolute top of their game and just evenly matched. Caelan RATCLIFFE takes the victory for Rex Austin in P2. Mason FEDRICK third with Jenson ANSELL fourth. Max Johnson was P5. Henrie BRODIE P6. Great ride from the number 23. With Tommy Keates in P7. Maxwell KEATES in P8. P9 was RICHH. Dani Longhurst in 10th. Oliver Wilson 11th. Unfortunately, we did lose Preston BAKER. But a great race there to open up our round 5 action here at this double round weekend at the Cumbria Kart Racing Club. We've got one more round 5 race to come in just a short moment's time. Then it's back to round 4, bizarrely enough. And then it's off to round 5 again to end off the day. But that's a great way to start this racing action. And, well, just awesome stuff from them. But there you go, Caelan RATCLIFFE takes victory. P2, well, it was a hard-fought fight, but Rex Austin just about holds on from Mason FEDRICK in P3. Ansell was 4th with Johnson 5th, Henrie BRODIE 6th, Tommy Keates 7th, and the other Keates in P8, RICHH 9th, and Dani Longhurst was in P10.
Next up then, we're going to be heading back to some Minimotos and going to continue their 5th round, their second half of FAB-Racing in 2024. We kickstart things, of course, with the AC40 Pro class, where it's all eyes to our big 3. Mason FEDRICK, Rex Austin, Caelan RATCLIFFE, trading wins, trading podiums, trading pole positions, trading positions all season long. This race should be no different.
Well, if any of the other races this weekend is anything to go by, we are due some absolute fireworks out on the racetrack. You see them making their way onto the grid there. FEDRICK on pole with Austin and RATCLIFFE alongside. Those 3 have been mighty all weekend, and there has been absolutely nothing to separate them. Absolutely superb action all weekend on track. And as we get going on the sighting lap in race number 2 of round 5, the AC40 Pros, it's sure to be the same. FEDRICK starts on pole position. Alongside him will be the other 2 of the big 3, Rex Austin and Caelan RATCLIFFE in 2nd and 3rd respectively. Max Johnson starts in P4. Alongside him in row 2 is Preston BAKER and RICHH. Jenson ANSELL is 7th alongside Henrie BRODIE in P8 and Maxwell KEATES in P9. Tommy Keates starts in 10th. Dani Longhurst in P11 and Oliver Wilson in P12. A 12-rider grid out there for this race. Maybe not the biggest we've seen before in the AC40 Pros, but as we've seen all weekend so far, one that has just produced spectacular racing.
Quality over quantity. I'd rather a good race than a abundant rider race, I suppose. I don't really know a much more majestic way to put that, but you want to see good racing. It doesn't matter if you've got 3 riders, as long as they're nice and close. You can have 30 riders, and if they're all 10 seconds apart, then it's a bit boring. So we've got fantastic riders, young riders, of course, the stars of tomorrow here today in the FAB-Racing paddock. All eyes, though, of course, naturally on our 3 championship contenders, FEDRICK, Austin, RATCLIFFE. Wins for all 3 of them. Mason FEDRICK taking 5 thus far this season, coming into this doubleheader round. He's got a lot to prove, but 2 very worthy rivals alongside him.
Very worthy, doesn't even start it. These boys at the front have been absolutely superb all season long, not just this weekend. And of course, let's not count out the other riders on the grid as well, the likes of Max Johnson and Preston BAKER, so often in the mix. It should be very exciting, to say the least. Race 2 of round 5 here at Rowrah in the AC40 Pros. It is lights out and we are underway. What a launch that is for Rex Austin. Caelan RATCLIFFE as well starts into 2nd. A bit of a disappointing getaway there from pole sitter Mason FEDRICK. He'll have to settle for 3rd heading out of the opening chicane, as he may be Caelan RATCLIFFE trying to go around the outside of Rex Austin, unable to make it come into fruition on this occasion. But now look at the drive from RATCLIFFE on the run up into Erdels, and that was as easy as they come, just using the power of the bike to slingshot his way up into the lead of the race. Down into Stewart's they go. Is RATCLIFFE from Austin, from FEDRICK, your top 3. A reverse of where they were starting on the grid. Ooh, a little bit of a wobble there for RATCLIFFE though, as he starts into the S's section. Look at FEDRICK looking to the inside, maybe coming into Sunny Bend. Decides against the move. Still early doors in the race. You can't win a race in the first lap. You can certainly lose it. Don't want to maybe make a mistake going for position and then cost yourself time or even come off the bike. At the end of lap 1 though, it is Ratcliffe from Austin, from FEDRICK, your top three.
You can't necessarily win it, but you can definitely give yourself a nice helping hand going forward, and maximising track position is a way to do that. For FEDRICK, though, he's already had that poor start. He needs to settle into this race quite nicely. Setting up a double switchback might well be the way to do it. Rex Austin finds his way into the lead. An immediate dummy to the inside, though, from the 96 of Caelan RATCLIFFE to respond straight away. That fluorescent yellow bike, as you can see, RATCLIFFE so aggressive and at such a young age, so courageous to go for those bold moves.
Awesome stuff there from the number 96 to get back into the lead. FEDRICK very, very close to the back of Austin. All three of them separated by well under a second at the line last time. RATCLIFFE pulling a little bit of a gap there as Austin decides to go defensive on FEDRICK. Ultimately comes to nothing. FEDRICK didn't even try making a move on this occasion. He's quite happy being patient, just waiting, sitting there. And now as they come out of the paddock bend to cross the line once again, still in the same positions as they were just one lap ago, and still nothing between them. You can fit a razor blade in there and it would all come to naught. Heading down into McRae's hairpin. FEDRICK taking a bit of a wider entry there, maybe trying to get the switchback, get the drive up out of the corner, as there we see the number 93 of Preston BAKER being tailed there by Jenson ANSELL. Quick shout out to Jenson ANSELL. This is his first race back at FAB in 2024 after he had a really big accident training in December last year. Multiple injuries, unfortunately, and was out of action for quite some time, but he's back this weekend and putting on a brilliant show. Apparently he's been itching to get back on the bike for a long, long time, and he's been beaming from ear to ear the entire time he's been in this weekend. And cherry on top, he's doing very, very well out on track as well. So great stuff there from Jenson ANSELL. Back to the fight for the lead, though. RATCLIFFE pulling a bit of a gap as BAKER goes, or Austin should I say, goes on the defensive from FEDRICK's. But ultimately, again, coming to nothing. FEDRICK's, he's not making the moves. I think he's just waiting almost for the gap to appear.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, he's got time to. We've got a little bit of time left in this race. Not a huge amount, but still enough for him to just breathe, assess the situation and find his way through calmly. We saw at Three Sisters that when he loses his head, when he gets aggressive, that's when mistakes start to happen. That's when he comes off. That's when DNF starts to occur. Take your time, have a nice rational approach to it, because you can. You're third place in a 3-bike train. You've got the opportunity to, you can afford just to wait back a lap or two, assess the situation and then start to attack like this potentially. A look to the inside of St John's, maybe into Sunny Bend. We know FEDRICK quite likes that, in all fairness, but RATCLIFFE at the moment leading this train from Rex Austin. Rex Austin, he's not a bad rider in terms of overtaking. It's just that RATCLIFFE has all the answers in his defence.
RATCLIFFE has been absolutely superb in his defence, and maybe this is an opportunity to Mason FEDRICK to the inside. No, gets it all shot firmly in his face by Rex Austin, who sweeps round to hold on to that second place. Oh, FEDRICK almost off the road there. Went down a big dip in the track as he ran slightly wide and just shook the bike about, lucky not to get thrown off. And that's cost him a bit of time as the front two maybe start to pull away, but FEDRICK straight back on the seat, straight back to pushing is the number 5. He desperately wants that race win, or at least to move up into second place to get in front of Rex Austin. Right now, though, the number 991 is doing a superb job of making his bike as physically wide as he possibly can. FEDRICK looks to the outside, heading into St John's. Nothing comes of it there. And once again, Austin doing a superb job, just blocking the moves where the overtaking zones are. And maybe not into paddock bend, though. FEDRICK to the inside. Austin squeezes him round the outside once again. Second time in a lap where FEDRICK's seen an opportunity to move to the inside, and ultimately Austin has just shut the door, squeezed on round the outside and made FEDRICK sit up and back out.
You have to feel for Austin, though. He's got to look forwards to attack, backwards to defend, and look at FEDRICK, very brave on the outside. A dive to the inside from Rex Austin, though. Goodness me, Caelan RATCLIFFE did not see that coming at all, but the response is quick. They're momentarily 3 wide towards the second hairpin. RATCLIFFE trying to go the long way round, takes the apex and takes the lead of the race with it as well. Beautiful stuff as Rex Austin immediately needs to defend from Mason FEDRICK. Bit of lap traffic to deal with as well for all 3 of them, but not that much time left to go in this race. Time is of the essence and opportunities are running out.
Yeah, time is certainly ticking away here at Rowrah as the sun begins to set as we head later and later into the afternoon. RATCLIFFE still holding on from Austin, still holding on from FEDRICK. Austin once again really defensive on the inside. That's going to compromise his exit, potentially give Mason FEDRICK a chance. They come to the line once again, but ultimately nothing. FEDRICK just unable to fully commit to a move, fully make his way through on that 991 machine. All the while, both of them absolutely hounding the number 96, none more so than Rex Austin, who squeezes on by and block passes the 96, shoves Ratcliffe out wide, and he goes from first to third. Meanwhile, FEDRICK's got up into the lead amongst all the commotion. 2 corners and lots of changes. They've swapped positions completely as FEDRICK into P1, Austin maintains P2, and Ratcliffe falls down to P3.
We said that FEDRICK needs to be patient. He's got the time to, and he's now reaping the rewards of it, getting them both in one foul sweep. They reversed on the first lap from their starting order. They've now reverted back into their starting order from FEDRICK, from Austin, from Ratcliffe, with not long left to go in this race at all. Just a handful of laps. FEDRICK, Austin, Ratcliffe, all 3 of them deserving of this race win. Unfortunately, there's only one top prize to take here at Rowrah for race number 2 of round 5 here for the AC40 Pro. FEDRICK has got the pace. He's trying his best to not look back and have to be forced back into that battle.
Can FEDRICK keep the pair behind? He took a long time to get through into the lead. Then the opportunity finally opened, and he took it with both hands. But now he's got 2 ferocious riders behind him. The Hunter has very much become the hunted as Ratcliffe squeezes through Austin up into second place. A lovely move, textbook, simple, but super, super effective. At the same time, down into Stewart's. Once again, they fly. Looks like FEDRICK a little bit of a gap back as they start to work their way through the back portion of the track and into the S's. But look at the commitment from Caelan RATCLIFFE in there, just absolutely hanging off the bike and leaving it all out on the table. And maybe here comes Caelan RATCLIFFE to the inside. Oh my goodness me, Mason FEDRICK squeezes him as they come round to start what will be the final lap of the race. One more tour to decide who stands on the top of the podium in race number 2.
Mason FEDRICK, Caelan RATCLIFFE, Rex Austin, 1, 2, 3. You cannot separate them at all. Yellow flags in the first sector. That could well slow down this battle ever so slightly. I think once they're past the incident, they are allowed and are free to race. So hopefully Caelan RATCLIFFE is able to launch an attack on Mason FEDRICK. Of course, the number 5 is hoping that he doesn't, and he has a plain sailing finish all the way to the end. But half defensive going towards Stewart. Does RATCLIFFE see the move? He does. He waits for the door to open and sends it. Mason FEDRICK tries to get back underneath. What a race this could well be for AC40 Pro. RATCLIFFE with an almighty send to the inside of Stewart's, now takes the lead with 3 corners remaining through St John's. Then Sonny, is there anything that Mason FEDRICK can do, or is it all in vain? He tries to get the acceleration. We know how good he is through Paddock Bend. Can he get the run to the line? He gets underneath. Can he get the power down? The checkered flag waves. Who sees it first? RATCLIFFE takes victory ahead of Mason FEDRICK. Rex Austin completes the podium in what was an absolutely scintillating battle from start to finish. These young riders take a bow. Such little experience, but such bucket loads of maturity.
Once again, the AC40 Pros have served us up a treat. What a battle, what a race, what a finish. Caelan RATCLIFFE saw the last chance saloon and waltzed in and took the victory. You can see absolutely delighted with that one, pumping the air in jubilation. A well-deserved win. But Rex Austin and Mason FEDRICK as well do not take away from their performances. Some almighty riding from all 3 of them out there, and just brilliant, brilliant stuff. It was Caelan RATCLIFFE who took the victory by under half a tenth of a second from Mason FEDRICK in P2. Rex Austin in P3 with Jenson ANSELL P4. Preston Baker was 5th with Max Johnson in P6. Henrie BRODIE 7th with Maxwell KEATES in 8th. Tommy Keates was 9th, and Dani Longhurst in P10. Arthur RICHH in P11, and Oliver Wilson rounding out our 12-bike grid. That is it from today's action for the AC40 Pros, and almost done for their action for the entire weekend. They've only got 1 more race in this double round. Got 5 done and dusted over Saturday and Sunday, but Monday morning, 1 more race for the pros in this doubleheader weekend. The riders slowly making their way back into the pit lane. What a race that was. What a time to be alive.
Max Johnson, Preston Baker, that's the top 5 with Arthur RICHH keeping them company on the 2nd row. Then comes Jenson ANSELL, Henrie BRODIE and Maxwell KEATES. That's the 3rd row of the field, with Tommy Keates rounding off the top 10. Dani Longhurst and Oliver Wilson round off what is a 12-rider field. 4 rows, nice and round, 9 laps of racing. And once again, all eyes on that top 3. I mean, we've had Austin, of course, Rex Austin taking a win for race 1. RATCLIFFE, of course, taking 2 consecutive victories. But Mason FEDRICK, the most consistent of the 3, P2s in the last 3 races over the duration of yesterday. So absolutely smashing it are all 3 of those young riders. And who's going to be the one to come out on top in this one?
Well, the last race of the weekend for some of these riders. Some of them might be heading out in the LC40 Elites later on. Time will tell, but they're making their way onto the grid now for the opening race of Monday's action. If you are just joining us just in time, we are about to go racing here at the Cumbria Kart Racing Club in Rowrah. Conditions a little bit worse than yesterday, wind a bit stronger, but it always is windy down here in the quarry. A little bit more cloud cover as well, as you can tell. Temperatures look to be a little bit lower, but overall dry running and good racing to be expected. Last checks being made by the parents / roving marshals. There we do see the big three of this championship up the front: FEDRICK, Austin and Ratcliffe. Your front row, they've been trading blows all weekend. Who's going to be the one that takes it this time? It is lights out. We are underway. Rocket jump once again from Rex Austin. Caelan Ratcliffe also away well. Mason FEDRICK struggling on that inside. The inside launches all weekend in all classes have been pretty disappointing. He's going to fall back to third, maybe to fourth, as up the inside tries Max Johnson on the 141. Does he get through? Yes, he does. FEDRICK down into P4. Lovely move by Rex or Max Johnson. There was someone off in the background. Hopefully everyone is okay as they make their way to the top point of the track. Through Erdell's hairpin they go, and look at Rex Austin. The boy has absolutely disappeared, and Preston Baker, meanwhile, making his way through, and Mason FEDRICK as well. He's gone from first to fifth in half a lap.
Beautiful stuff, it must be said, but look at that from Rex Austin. There's a rider, unfortunately, off. That's the 26. That is Dani Longhurst, unfortunately having some issues. It seems the bike switched off. The, of course, marker trying to get it going again. There she goes, back onto the racing circuit, but losing a ton of time side by side immediately as we close off the first lap of racing action. It's Caelan Ratcliffe, of course, that's in pursuit of Rex Austin. Side by side as Mason FEDRICK is tumbling down the order.
Yeah, FEDRICK, it's something either wrong with the bike or he's not quite woken up or something along those lines. Really struggling at the moment is the pole sitter. Meanwhile, Ratcliffe holding off on the 141 of Max Johnson and the 93, or Preston Baker, should I say. Can he keep him behind? 141 just behind them. And oh, look at that lovely little move by Preston Baker. Tucks up the inside, takes the opportunity, uses the drive out of Erdell's as they plummet down the hill and into Stewart's. That is up into P2 for Preston Baker from fifth on the grid. Now he's just going to try and hunt down the 991 of Rex Austin. The two in the battle for second place, starting to pull away from the two in the battle for fourth place, that being Max Johnson and Jenson ANSELL on the 22, making their way to Paddock Bend, and around they go. And on to the next lap. It's still even Stevens between the lot of them. The 141 holding position for the time being. But Jenson ANSELL, he's been racy all weekend, and he's been in good spirits again. His first weekend at FAB this season after a big injury late last year. He spent a lot of time recovering, a lot of time getting used to being back on the bike, but apparently he's been chomping at the bit to get racing again, and he is loving every second of it as he has a look on the 141. Doesn't come to anything for the time being. But I tell you what, Jenson ANSELL looking pretty pacey out there.
Yeah, indeed. So, of course, Max Johnson, don't forget, that 141 had a fairly sizable off yesterday. Unfortunately, sort of looked like he was a little bit hurt, was able to get up and start walking, but it's nice to see that his confidence has not faded at all and is contending for the podium. We've got a very mixed up grid so far for the AC40 Pro. Of course, it's very early. These are just kids. Maybe some of them aren't fully awake just yet, but this is the way they want to round off their first round of the second half of the season. Round 5, of course, here in Rowrah. You need to go, if you really kickstart the final 2 rounds of the season, have that morale, have that stepping stone. And right now, unfortunately for Mason FEDRICK, he is nowhere near the pace that he was showing yesterday. So who's that off?
Oh, that's multiple riders in. Mason FEDRICK, I think, is one of them. Potentially. The other one, that's the 96 of Caelan Ratcliffe, who's also gone down, who was running with Caelan Ratcliffe. That, I believe, was Max Johnson, potentially.
No.
Hopefully everyone is okay. Just making sure that they're all up and on their feet. As there we see some more of the riders. That's Max Johnson running with Jenson ANSELL, I believe. So maybe it wasn't Max Johnson. No, so Max Johnson hasn't gone down. Potentially Preston Baker that went down earlier on there. And that is FEDRICK. That's gone down, yeah. Oh, yeah, so big problems there. That's coming through the opening chicane. A real shame there for them. The 26, that's Dani Longhurst. So maybe it was an incident with traffic, actually. We saw Dani Longhurst having problems early on and falling back down the order. As there we do see someone who's definitely had their Weetabix this morning. The 991 of Rex Austin is absolutely dominating. 5 laps left to go. He's got a 4-second lead, and he is flying at the moment up the front. Behind him, as it stands, Preston Baker, the number 93. Bit of a big gap to try and cover up in the remaining 4.5 laps. And, well, that's a great way to start your Monday morning, isn't it?
Yeah, it very much is, of course. If you're watching along at home, this is also a very good way to start your Monday morning as well. If you're bored at work or just bored in general, come and join FAB-Racing. Of course, the stars of the future here today in the paddock. Of course, as you can see, we're finalising round number 5 for the Minimotos before we embark on the rest of round 5 for the other categories. So plenty of racing to indulge in. There you can see RICHH Austin, one of the favourites for the championship. Championship leader, of course, coming into this round as well, and has already taken a couple of race wins thus far here deep in the quarry. There is Caelan RATCLIFFE back on the bike, it seems. So obviously we did see that bike down, so he is up and ready to go, but that is with Preston BAKER. Did we see RATCLIFFE down? I thought we did, unless he's now being lapped. I'm not entirely sure. Nonetheless, he's running around quite nicely. That's the 93 of Preston BAKER just in behind him. So maybe we've got a fight for P2 on our hands. Let's see what can happen with just 3.5 laps left to go. But one thing is for certain, and that is RICHH Austin is sure for victory.
We did definitely see RATCLIFFE down at the chicane. So he's managed to get back on, but not showing up on the timing screen. So I wonder if potentially a transponder issue for RATCLIFFE there. He was down for quite some time, so probably being lapped. Mason FEDRICK also looks like he's dropped out of his race. Just saw him pulling into the pit lane there as the camera quickly brushed past as they headed through Paddock Bend. So Mason FEDRICK looks like it was indeed a problem with the bike. But let's go back to the action on track. We are currently following the battle for third place. The 141 of Max Johnson still holding off from Jenson ANSELL, but for how much longer? ANSELL runs wide onto the curbs. There we see Johnson defensive into Paddock Bend. ANSELL tried desperately to get the run as he gets on the gas. Can he look to the inside of the chicane? Not on this occasion, but still pushing very, very hard. Johnson doing a great job of absorbing that pressure though, just holding on to that position. That's something that Johnson is very, very strong at, just keeping a level head and just keeping it going, hitting his marks, doing exactly what he needs to do in this situation in order to maintain that position. As ANSELL once again ducks to the inside. That seems to be a preferred move this morning for the riders, trying to cut into the inside at the exit of Erdales and get a strong drive out down the back stretch. This time hasn't worked for ANSELL, but still attacking. It seems to be 2 laps left to go. Yeah, exactly that. He's running out of opportunities. Of course, a big shame for Mason FEDRICK. That becomes his 3rd DNF of this season. When he's finished, he's been fantastic, but unfortunately, I think over the duration of the season, now into the second half, it's going to be very difficult for him to recover in the championship. Of course, Max Johnson and ANSELL for their hopes in the championship. Of course, ANSELL, he's only got half the season to really recover, so they also want to maximise their points, and this is a golden opportunity for them to close in potentially on Mason FEDRICK, who, as we say, he's not going to take the checker flag and thus is not going to take any points. Another rider down, that is the 22 of Jenson ANSELL. That is a huge shame in his pursuit for Max Johnson. What a shame there for Jenson ANSELL. Also looks like that was coming through the opening chicane, so we've seen a few riders now having issues through there. There wasn't any rain overnight, I don't believe. Maybe just cold track, maybe just early morning getting used to the bike. Conditions a bit different potentially from the rest of the weekend's running. But yeah, several riders encountering trouble down there. Race leader though, about to start his last lap of this final race of the weekend for the AC40 Pros. Race number 3 in round number 5, of course, this being the doubleheader weekend / Monday. There is Lee Clowes, the flag marshal, holding out the last lap flag. And well, for RICHH Austin, this has been a very, very easy ride for him. He got to the front from the start and just hasn't looked back. A nice and simple cruise, and he can just bring it on home. Nobody near him, plain track out in front of him. All he's got to do at this point, Zach, hit his marks, bring it home, and he can have a very, very nice win. Yeah, exactly that. Of course, it's his final race of the weekend, and he wants to bring it home in good fashion. He had won 2 races, 7 podiums, and pretty much finished every race inside the top 5 coming into Rowrah, and has continued that record into this one with a win yesterday, a win, of course, on Saturday as well, extending that championship margin, being the most consistent of the big 3. RICHH Austin rounds through Sunny Bend for the final time into Paddock Bend, and to round off our first race here on Monday, AC40 Pro race 3 round 5 goes the way of RICHH Austin in sensational fashion. Caelan RATCLIFFE brings it home in P2, but will go the way of Preston BAKER on the timing screens, going to the 93, with Max Johnson completing the podium when he works his way to the checker flag. Bar RICHH Austin, that is a very mixed up podium from what we've seen so far this weekend. Yeah, not what we were expecting. We've had straight fights from FEDRICK, Austin and RATCLIFFE all weekend long. This one, a big mix-up of the order in the final race of the AC40 Pros. A great win for RICHH Austin, must be said, but Obviously, we saw issues from Mason FEDRICK. I'm assuming there was some sort of issue with the bikes. We did see him pulling into the pit lane about halfway through the race, and just the pace wasn't quite there, so I'm assuming something mechanically just wasn't sound. Obviously, Caelan RATCLIFFE also struggling and getting involved in that incident. Means at Rex Austin, it was an easy cruise to take the win in race number 3 of round number 5 here at Rowrah. Preston Baker came home in P2 with Max Johnson rounding out the podium. Henrie BRODIE got up to P4 with RD4 in P5. Maxwell KEATES was 6th, with Tommy Keates 7th, Jenson ANSELL 8th, and Oliver Wilson at P9th. Unfortunately, we did lose Mason FEDRICK and Dani LONGHURST, and Caelan RATCLIFFE, I believe, having a small transponder issue because he's not showing up on the timing screens, but he was on circuits. We'll find out for you where he finished, if indeed he was classified, as soon as we know. But that is it for the weekend's action for the AC40 Pros. Some of them might be back out a little bit later in the elites, but that's it for them.
Yeah, that is very, very unfortunate, of course. A big problem for Mason FEDRICK in the championship. Let's move on as we progress through the weekend.